As distribution water quality interns, we've learned a lot about monitoring and testing that occurs to make sure that New York City water is clean and safe. We've gained a lot of hands-on experience, both in the field and in the lab, and we've decided that the best way to show you all the things we've learned is by following the journey of one sample bottle. The bottles we'll be following today are wet chem bottles, which are typically used in the inorganics lab. In the morning, these bottles are taken off the shelf in the washroom by field staff and put in a cooler. The bigger bottles are the wet chem bottles, and the smaller bottles are for the microbiology lab. Next, the bottles get taken out into the field to a sampling station. There are over 900 sample stations found throughout the 5 boroughs. They are typically found in high-density areas and near schools and hospitals. The sampling stations are connected to the distribution mains that deliver water throughout the city, so they are a very efficient way to monitor water quality. Before going out into the field staff print out a label and label the bottles. These labels include information such as the date the sample was taken and which sample station that it was taken at. These labels are important for establishing a chain of custody, which we will talk about later, and making sure that bottles can be found if they are mixed up or lost. After applying the labels to the bottles, the field staff scan the labels to make sure there is a record of sample at that particular station, and fill the bottles up with water from the sampling station. The bottle then goes into a cooler and stays there until it reaches the receiving room. Field staff typically have multiple sampling stations that they go to in one day, so the coolers and ice packs are important in making sure the samples stay cold so that any analysis going on later in the day can be as accurate as possible. The purpose of the receiving room is to make sure that bottles are received properly and then delivered to the right laboratory. Once in the receiving room, the bottles are unloaded from the cooler and then scanned again by the field staff to show that they made it to the receiving room. After being scanned by the field staff, they are scanned again by the receiving room staff into the STAR-LIMS system, which is a laboratory management system. This continues the chain of custody. The chain of custody keeps track of where the sample bottle is and when it was there. This is to make sure that all bottles can be accounted for, whether they are in the field, the receiving room, or a lab. This is a chain of custody report generated by the receiving room. After being handed off, the bottles are kept in a fridge to maintain their temperature before being given to the lab. Many of the tests need to be done the same day the samples are collected, so it's important that the field staff start early so that the samples can be given to the scientists in time. The wet chem bottles are given to the inorganics lab. Before testing can begin, they have to be scanned into the STAR-LIMS system by the lab scientists. The inorganics lab tests for pH, conductivity, turbidity, and other things. There are 3 other labs in the distribution section: metals, organic chemistry, and microbiology. These labs also receive bottles from sampling stations and have to go through the same process of scanning their bottles into STAR-LIMS before testing and analysis can occur. Many laboratories throw away their plasticware after use, but DEP does not. Because of this, we save money and reduce our environmental footprint. However, it does mean that we have to ensure that plasticware and glassware is washed properly before it can be used again. There are 2 different rooms for washing materials, the media room and the washroom. The media room is primarily responsible for sterilizing microbiology bottles. The washroom is used for metals, organic, and inorganic bottles. The wet chem sample bottles used on this run are washed in the washroom. Items can either be washed by hand or in a machine. There is a lot of documentation that occurs in the washroom. The washroom logs include what was washed, who washed them, and when they were washed. This allows us to see how many washes are done in a day and how much materials the lab is using at any given time. Once a sample bottle is washed and dried, it is put back on the shelf to be used again. The life of a sample bottle is more than just cyclical. It can show us just how many people are involved in making sure that New York City's water is clean and safe.